What's happening, everyone? You are a jelly donut that never goes stale. Shout out to our friend Somi. I do enjoy his videos. I get a lot of information, informative, and very, very funny guy. If you ever want to come on the stream one day, let me know. Let me know. I've never seen him stream, so I'm not even going to ask. So I think he would let us know if he was interested in doing that. Otherwise, he is just an AI doing 3 or 4 streams a day, and nobody can keep up with him. It's always possible. You never know. Guys, welcome to the show. We got a special on Access Live. We're going to go for a hard hour, 15 minutes or so, and then I'm going to jump on for do a security AMA with DeFi Down Under. However, action-packed. Bring your wife, bring your kids, bring everyone in the living room. We're going to get into some cool stuff with this. Talk about PulseChain. They're going to do a Piteous demo as well. That's something I've been interested in a lot, and Access seems to be a fan of too. So we're going to go through that and a lot of cool dexes and aggregators and stuff in the PulseChain community. And also talk about Mt. Gox a little bit as well. And the delayed dumpage that appears to be happening there as well. Anyways, without further ado, I'll get to chat in just a minute, everyone. Access Alive for the 8th, 9th, 10th, 12th. I don't even know how many times. Welcome back, sir.
I don't even have that many fingers.
You can't even count the number of times we've been on stream together. Fireworks always happens though, right?
I always figured out geometry. I could never quite figure out the abstract of numbers. How many is it?
What is a hand anyway? When you look at your hand, you're like, what is a hand?
RHMax. I might need to borrow your hand so I can count past 10.
Let me know. I'll hold them up. I'm sure it'll get blurred and be terrible looking though, but I'll try to help you out, man.
What's going on, everybody in the chat? Thanks for joining us today. I'm always lit up to be a part of the RHMax clan. So thanks for coming and spending your evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are. We got some cool stuff to talk about.
I've been abstracted. My clan is an abstract concept, and you were within it, sir. You were within it. I like that. Yeah, a lot of cool stuff to talk about. Fast Abdul wants to hear some secrets. You never know. We don't keep a lot of secrets on the show. Once it comes on the show, it tends to be utilized and taken all different directions. So try to bring you the best content. That's why this guy's here, and he has a HEX logo, and he has his own name on the wall. You know he's legit when you see stuff like that. Man, what is going on with PulseChain? And I know you got some fun stuff to talk about there. How do you want to get into it?
Do you want to talk about price action, or do you want to talk more about just like the optics of it right now? Because I think that's something where we could both maybe have some interesting points to speak to. I think just on the surface, if we're talking optics, like there's the SEC thing is kind of like under the water, under the bridge now for the meantime. I don't really think that's affecting us in terms of price. And then. Dude, it seems like every day there's upgrades, updates, new new add-ons, new functionality. Not directly on the PulseX DEX necessarily, but just everything is evolving and being built on top of PulseChain now. And now I feel like we're kind of crossing through the threshold of where Pulse, the token, has value because of how much is built around it, and now it's become like a resource that people are seeking. Everyone wants to earn more Pulse at this point now because the ratio trading game has been amped up a notch with this whole PDI and Atropa system and this race to grab as many coins as you can of PLS. So it's really a competitive environment out there right now. You got freaking coins popping off, doing thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of % returns, and even more in some cases. And it's giving people an opportunity. I've actually witnessed now in other coins, and even in the coin that I launched, people see like 50x's, 100x's, and one guy in particular 700x. Like that's not even like. It's happening on PulseChain, and people are multiplying their bags because there's these like crazy run-ups and opportunities due to the lack of liquidity. So it's like a unique point in the history of PulseChain where US dollar prices are really low. Some whales have so much of the supply that they can come into a little chart and just like make it explode. And I think that's like the best marketing.
I definitely agree around just everything. It seems like the SEC stuff was just... it hit hard when it hit, and then now it's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of baked in. We sort of know, what's going there. Look at all the other lawsuits going on. SEC, nobody has trust the SEC anymore. Like the whole, all the news I see these days it looks to me, when I see that something happened in crypto on the news, it's usually bullish. It's usually like, oh, BlackRock's talking at another conference or something. It's always like something where again, I said this a couple weeks ago. It's like, it just feels like we're either at the Like we're either changing market conditions, we're at the beginning of something, or we're literally like something is setting up. It's almost like calculated.
Feels like a setup.
Exactly.
100% agree.
It feels like a setup. So the sentiment can be what it is. PulseChain, people can feel how they want to feel about that and stuff. But I don't get. I don't know.
Well, we always have to look.
Feels like the worst behind us.
100%. And like we always have to look. Well, I mean, how could you not say that? Bitcoin's up double from where it was on the lows. You know, and like we always have to pay homage to Bitcoin. Like that's what drives this whole entire market. You know, so as of today, like it's reminding me a lot of the price action of 2020 when we had DeFi summer and sometime between August, September at 10.5K flipped as support after a big dump from 12K. And like this action that we're getting on it right now just reminds me so much of that. And like the fact that good news isn't pumping price, but bad news isn't dumping price necessarily. On Bitcoin side of things, like, and it's kind of like the quiet before the storm, right? I think that there's going to be a huge surge of price action because, you know, in the face of the stock market getting slammed, like, and just the pressures from the macro environment, crypto's holding up. Like maybe not the most illiquid altcoins, but like the Bitcoin market is holding up really well, and it's already proven itself as an inflation hedge. And so now I think we're gearing up for like wave 2 of the bull market cycle going into next year. So, of course, you got the ETF news too that piles on, right, as bullish ammunition.
Yeah, you know, I'm very conservative when I talk about things too. You know, of course, no financial advice on this channel at all. I've never felt in the last couple of months as good as the market has felt, even when prices have been going down, even when things went sideways, even when the bad news just seemed to never go away. It has felt better. It has had this feeling of, and maybe that's the confidence too. You know, we talked about it a little bit before. It's like, maybe it's just, you know, I've seen these things before. I know how the ecosystem works. You know, unshakable edge. Maybe it's that too, but it plays into these real world factors lining up, and a lot of which we'll talk about today. But just everything seems calculated into, hey, not only are we going to get a bull run, I don't know when it's going to happen, but it certainly seems like people want to make money, and that's very exciting.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to just, well, okay, to your point, yes. Okay, so we got the screen up. To your point, yes, people want to make money, and it's clear as day because I can pull up any of these tabs up here, just pick one. Teddy bear freaking ran up like crazy. Pulse Reflections, it's a tax coin, ran up like bananas off these lows, 2,200%. Wrap Bitcoin, amazing performance. This one I particularly like. I think Wrap Bitcoin's a huge play for the cycle. And then, like, of course, you got like the OG PLS. Like, it started to create a parabola over the last like week or so. So that was like the first bullish thing that's come out of this in a while. It's basically fractalizing what we saw back here. So if you guys remember, back in June, we started to create this long-term bottom, and then we broke structure here. Let me thicken that up so you guys can actually see it on your screen. Okay, so then we broke structure, and then we came back down to test. And normally, like, you'd see some sort of like a retest here at these levels, and then it would resume with more force. But we got the reverse. We got the SEC news, right? So, but this fractal here, where it like comes down and like rounds out, that same thing is now happening down here on like a smaller scale. Okay, we're just breaking structure now. So the question is, okay, are we gonna make one leg lower in the grand scheme of things, or are we going to create a base? And so then, okay, so we can't really know, is it going to be news that's going to drive us potentially down or up, or what it's going to be, but we can always look back to Bitcoin for guidance. And so, like, I have these 3 fractals up, and I've had these 3 fractals up on here since, like, I actually used to have them over here. So I'll give you an example. Like, they used to be over here, and then I just shifted them, like, so that, you know, we could see where we're at in the cycle, right? Because, like, it was a little early because of this topping area. So I was just like moved them over. Made sense to me anyway. And now look how we're forming support. And then 2 of these 3 fractals, they bounced from this 25,000 level. Only one of them, well, I guess couple caveats to that. So the blue one obviously breaks down. This is like the 2018 fractal where we bottomed, and then it would have been like a clean like double bottom here, but that's not happening. So then the question remains like, okay, if if performance support, we can get like a 20. The red one is more like COVID dip. So if Bitcoin holds strong until like November or December, going into the new year, it doesn't have to happen on the same time frame, but your lower lows or your lows are continually rising, because as this price stays strong, more and more buyers has to come in here and be greedier and greedier to buy best prices are behind us now. The best prices were down here because and you can like cross reference this with like on exchange balances of Bitcoin, which are at record lows. Like they've been ever since here, COVID last time, on-chain balances have dropped for Bitcoin ever since here. So this whole time frame while this has been going on, Bitcoin's been being absorbed by the real TradFi, right? Because that's where we're at with this now. It's a real inflation hedge where that does 100% year over year. That's the narrative. And some years they can get 200 or 300, 400% out of it. Anything you want to add to that?
I was just thinking, do we see anything here where, are people just 2024 is what I've been thinking about a lot too. Is it just something where, okay, it's accumulating, they're looking around, seeing who else is buying. Oh, should I buy now before? Is it literally just a matter of like waiting and not being too late at this point for people who are trying to get into the market?
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. I think, like the longer this goes on, the longer Bitcoin holds strong, the more people are going to be greedier and hungrier to buy it at these prices. Because now it's like, because most people don't look at a chart. Most people just look at a number on a screen that says 25,000 or 20,000 or 15,000, and then that's enough for them to make a decision. And so the longer that out there, they open up that screen for months and months and months and months, and it's still above 25,000. Eventually, they just, if 9 months goes by and you've waited 9 months and it's still at 25K, eventually you're just going to pull the trigger. And that's kind of what that next push is going to do. It's going to be people that are just going to say, screw it, this is a good enough price for me. And they're going to take more off the exchanges. So like the range that I'm seeing here is like, because of those psychological factors, is somewhere between 25,000 and 33,000. And that can that can play out all the way until next summer, basically. And I don't really anticipate that we need to go too much above or below. So I'm going to clean this up now since we got our range. And this is kind of what I'm thinking is like, who cares what happens, but this is your range to play with. And then there may be a part of this cycle into 2024 where we spill or we pump out and it has to come back to the median. But in both cases, it's coming back to the median. So this is our median trend here, something like this. So this price can oscillate like this because of the momentum of the market and the scarce supply of Bitcoin. So this is the kind of what I'm thinking is like general trend. Like, of course, if you want to get granular about it and kind of figure out where the best opportunities are inside of here, for Bitcoin purposes, then buying below the blue line anywhere in here is probably a better buy than waiting for it to be up in here, because then you're going to actually extend your profit taking even further out into time. Good news is that if you do buy out here and price gets up here, it's usually it begins a parabolic advance, and then it'll actually get to your profit target a lot sooner, versus like if you buy here and it breaks back down to new lows. This usually extends you got to be safe for up to a year. So it's more of a game of predicting price over time being the key element here.
Sure. I wanted to ask, I don't know, between the TA, it's probably a good time to get into it too. Don't know if you want to go to Pulse or HEX next, but the bear marketplace at some point, I want to get those in of like what have you seen people do, and then like what is the play until things really start to go up. Maybe we're going sideways for the next few months or otherwise, but like until the engine's like pedal to the metal, gas to the floor sort of thing, like those type of plays I want to get into as well. But let's look at PulseChain looks like first.
So let's pivot. So like if Bitcoin's going to spend time down here, it's going to be better for buy opportunities over here on the Pulse ecosystem. So that's where we'll get into this now. So like, assuming that it's going to be a sideways year for the crypto market leading into the early next year where we start to pick up steam, I mean, in terms of like buying and DCAing and price actions, like one of the options that you have is, of course, like as an investor, you can always dollar cost average in. I think a lot of people are kind of burnt out on that because they've been doing it on PulseChain since the top, right? And so like maybe they're down a bunch or they are tired of bringing money in. But like this, it kind of depends on what level you're at. So if, like if you're brand new and you're like, you have no HEX stakes, you have very little, you have no exposure, your best bet is to just bring in a wad of cash at these levels because this is pretty low. I'm talking like super low. Like when I just zoom out and look at it on a linear chart on like a, let's go to a daily so it cleans it up. I mean, look at how flat the price action's getting down here. If I do a line chart, I mean, this is pretty flat. And what you want to see on any coin in the past is like when things get flat, it's like the good time to start coming in a little heavier. So that's just like an outright opportunity to like, okay, I got $3,000 that I can bring into cryptocurrency. So you start with just automatically buying 30% right here at these levels, you know, rather than worrying about like, well, I want to get the best price. Well, if you have no exposure, you got to get some exposure, and the prices are down. Like, I don't even know. Let's see here where we're at, minus 82%. So it's pretty good. Yeah.
What about, you know, a lot of people might say, hey, I don't have any dry powder. I sacked everything, you know, just working right now. Are there, you know, LP farming, you know, mining, no, ladders have become, I don't know how ladders haven't become more popular these days. Every time I look at the HEX price, I'm like, you see all those T-shares? I see the T-shares. I don't know why people aren't going nuts over that.
Let's talk about that because it's something that Crispy Man from Hexfire and I talk about all the time. And I think you talk about it from time to time. It's not alien to you either. But like the fact that you can, if you had that $3,000 and you wanted to like pick a coin to bring it into, I'm just going to use PHEX as an example because it's like what's popular right now. And I think it's got a higher percent chance of hitting 50 cents, which is the all-time high for HEX this cycle. Even though I personally have beliefs that they both could get that to that price and higher. But it's safe. It's just from a statistical data point, it's safer to go with PHEX at this time. But that doesn't mean that there is an opportunity on EHEX. So this is where we'll figure out the calculation. So like, let's say you had $3,000 to bring in. What is $3,000 at 0.08? 3,000.
Half mil.
I'm seeing, if my math right, 375,000.
Yeah.
Okay, 375,000 HEX. And like, let's say you stake them to let's say you're going to try and predict the bull market, right? And so you're going to put it out in the middle of June of like, or the middle of 2026 sometime, or maybe the early 2026, which is roughly, I want to say like 900-ish days away. All right. Now you're going to pre-print in $900. So it's, what is that percent your return? Like 30% for 900 days of your time. So for the $3,000 investment at these prices, you made $900. So like you're basically just like you think of it like this, like you have a savings account. Like this isn't mad gains, but when the price increases, let's say it goes to 0.08 cents or 8 cents sometime this cycle. Well, now that was an extra 10 grand in your pocket when that stake matures. And I think a lot of people are forgetting how safe of an investment it is because we're so like PTSD'd from the past like couple of years of bear market, right? And maybe people think like, oh, it's just going to go down forever, or it'll not recover, things like that. So even to just get back to like 1/5 of the price of the all-time high on PHEX, and you're seeing $9,000, $10,000 in returns, like over 2 years, basically a little over 2 years, that's pretty good returns. And like, you know, do I think it can go higher, it can go lower, of course, but so that's a decent play, right? That could change, you know, that could pay for bills for 3 months for you locking up your money. Plus the principal is going to be worth, you know, 10x, right? But so there's the PHEX side, but dude, if you take a chance on the EHEX side right now, it's actually even crazier. Like EHEX is so cheap. It's 0.003. I think that'd give you 700,000 hex. And you do the same exact calculation, like, okay, yeah, now you have $2,100 invested. So that's actually more than that. Wow. Hold on. We got to get the $3,000. So you can get 1 million hex. Like I don't know what the price is on EHEX right now. I think it's roughly where's that at here? Yeah, 0.003. Okay. So check
50
this
T
shit.
shares. It's crazy.
Yeah, 50 T shares for just a 900-day stake too, mind you. Like if you max this out, some people are gonna do the staking ladder route. I'm trying to remind people that the option is there for like a shorter stake so they can realize profits this cycle. But like for if you can afford to put $3,000 out like into the 2030s and you can capture this 100 T shares, it's in my mind it's like a once in a lifetime chance to get this amount of size in the ecosystem again, because you actually have a chance of like competing with high level squids or dolphins, which are like some of the top 2,500 wallets in the whole HEX game. And like once the price floors start to get set at higher prices, like those chances are going to be gone. Just to get back to what I believe is totally going to happen for EHEX this cycle, which is like 5 cents. I think that's like a safe bet for like a super bullish environment. Like like it's going to 5 cents. Like now all of a sudden this $8,000, $8,500 that you make for 2 years of I'm sorry, I gotta go back to 900 days. $15,000 for is the return on a $50,000. That 3,000 turns to 50,000, and then the 15,000 is what you made for locking it up. And there's nothing wrong with like if you needed the money, you could pull it past the 50% mark and get some of the interest, so it wouldn't have been a total loss for you. In the event that you you understand that you're not totally locked out of these things. I think a lot of people forget that there is like strategy behind emergency and staking at the right time if the price goes high enough. And this is only projecting at a 5-cent hex, so it's a little over a 10x in price. So that million, honestly, I think a million hex will be coveted at the end of the bull market. I think for you to get a million hex on either chain is going to be very challenging. And at the same time, this T-share rate is going to go up to 50,000 hex. So by the time you go to stake this 900 days from now, this T-share rate is going to be over 50,000 hex per T-share, which is half of 100,000, which is a significant increase. It's almost it's like a 40% increase in the T-share rate, the cost to get it. And then you got to compound that against the cost of the price of the coin going up. So like the guys that are going to make this a reality for you are the guys that are going to come in and start staking heavy between 5 cents and 25 cents next cycle. Like as the cycle builds up, the real FOMO starts when new adoption comes in and they start like loading up on bags between 5 cents and 25 cents hex on either chain. It doesn't matter. And those are the guys who are going to be creating the price floor for you getting in down here at like 0.3 of a cent, 0.8 of a cent, pick your chain.
So I think just for everyone listening to, it doesn't sound real to you. Last cycle, I mean, a million hex, so 50K at one point, a million hex was 250K at one point. I mean, this happened before, and this is without all the stuff, all the community, all the things we have now.
Yeah. Dude, this year, a million hex was worth 130 grand. That was this year in March. 130 grand in March of this year for a million hex.
Yep.
And so I think people like just check yourself at the door and like realize like how expensive this stuff is going to get and how scarce it's going to get. And if you don't know about that stuff, ask questions. Look into. Here's the thing: is like nobody wants to go back and sift through 2 years of videos online to try to find the nuggets. But we can try to, like, if you guys talk about it in the chat, we can try to bring it back and make it resurface and remind everyone like how valuable this stuff really is and how rare it's going to get.
Incredible, man. Incredible. It's one of those things. Once you see it, once you understand it, you can't go back. It's pretty amazing.
Well, it's just like the most risk-free hedged money that you can get in crypto. Like Bitcoin mining is so expensive and costly and risky. It's so much riskier as a small to mid-sized miner than it is to just buy HEX and stake it at these prices. This is the most risk-free trade you can take in crypto at this time. And I think because of this system is why Pulse is going to get a lot of its value and why Pulse will be such an amazing blockchain. Obviously it's got its own value just because it's a copy of Ethereum with all the system state forked, which is amazing in and of itself. Plus its gas fees are like multiples cheaper and it's faster. So there's all these like utilities built into PulseChain that's amazing. You got hundreds of developers building on it. Even I built a coin on it, for God's sake, and I never thought I'd do that. Thanks to gopulse.com/mint. And so like in terms of price action on Pulse, and PHEX. Something came across my radar today. There was a message from what was his name? Hextronaut. Hextronaut made a tweet, and I just went down, and he said like this guy that dumped this. So I filtered this out. So if you guys want to do chain analysis for yourselves, it's pretty easy to do. I'm gonna make the screen a little bigger. You can come down here to the bottom so use dexscreener.com to look at charts. You can search them over here with the search button, or you can click on the PulseChain button here where this question mark is, and it'll take you into the PulseChain like dashboard. And so inside there you can find like interesting plays and trades and things to buy and sell. And anyway, I come on here to do my chain analysis a lot. Now they've added some stuff, like they added like a little sea creature next to the wallet addresses here. You can filter by wallet addresses, by the amount of pulse or hex transacted, the USD value of them. And so he made a comment that this guy here with, these are the last 6 digits, 5F3, F63, that he's a known dumper in HEX. And so like you can even like pull up his wallet by clicking on this button and then look at his transaction address and copy it, and then go over to something like stakehex.today. And you can like look in here, and I don't know who this guy is, but he's supposedly he likes to dump. And so like you can come in here and you can plan your buys around when this guy's got stakes ending potentially, right? Because he's been known to do this before. So I mean, he's sitting on what says here, it says 12,230 T-shares on the Ethereum chain. And his next stake ends next August 2024, and it's going to have a projected 109 million HEX in there. And so, you know, I'm looking forward. This guy, if he's got a history of dumping every stake, this might be really needed liquidity in a time when HEX is really starting to get bullish, and we might be trading like 3 to 5 cents, and there's no supply for sale. This guy might come in and dump some back into the supply and give us something to buy. So, because at some point, the amount of people flooding in and the new money coming in makes it a situation where there's no coins left to buy, because people just stop selling, and people just they get ready for the bull run. And so I was just looking at this and I was like, damn, 100 million coming out next August. That could be an opportunity to buy a dip potentially. So I'm already looking out a year in advance. Anything else you wanted to say about that?
No, not on the dumping. The dumping happens. It's interesting to think about the liquidity and it being lower, and then giving a chance for people to buy. Do you think that, you know, lower liquidity, more volatility, less to buy, usually price go up, but at a certain point, do people just say, hey, I'm not paying the slippage? Like, is this like a user experience issue?
If you want to get less slippage on your buys, like, of course, a lot of people we're talking to aren't bringing in $100K or $1 million. Not to say that you guys aren't capable of that, maybe, but I think the people that we're speaking to are probably not going to. The slippage isn't going to affect you as much, because you're just going to transact for EHEX on the Pulse chain. So like you just go to the EHEX chart. There's plenty of liquidity over here. I think there's like 2 billion EHEX on Pulse chain, and it looks to me like there's 600. Oh wow, it's pretty low, huh? There's only $27,000 of EHEX over here, so it's getting even rare over here. But yeah, so slippage is a concern in that environment for sure. In both directions.
Well, I guess if you're talking to someone like we're looking at capital allocators and people that have millions of dollars, they're looking for the plays to make in the upcoming bull run and stuff, and they look at liquidity and say, hey, I have money, but I'm not going to pay, I'm not going to 10x the price just to get all the HEX. What do they do? Is that a situation where they wait and they don't even come in, or how does that play out?
OTC. Find somebody who's got a bag that wants to sell OTC. That might be easier said than done, but that's one route anyway. Or you just go to the more liquid pair. So I was just looking here. You can technically buy. You won't get as much slippage on some of this when we go and we do this demo for like. This is probably a good point to do it. Let's do it. So this is Pitius.io, app.pitius.io, and I've been using this to transact mostly just because it protects you against MEV bots. And this was like a problem that I was having where like I'd do a transaction on PulseX and like a bunch of bots would automatically front run my trades, and you could see them down in like in the section down here. Like if you let's say you do like a buy, and you'll see like these greens come in before you, and then it'll execute yours, and then you see some reds populate right after you, and it's like, well, what's going on there, really? And a lot of times what that is it's bots getting in, and they're making a little bit of money on you every time that you make a transaction. So I came over here and I started using this this ecosystem. So like, let's just do like a little test on HEX here. So let's say you wanted to use like DAI. Let's see what a $3,000 buy would do, and how much slippage there would be. So this DEX aggregator is going to try to figure out what's the best route, and if you hover over show route, it'll actually show you, where it's pulling from. So if you're flipping DAI into HEX, it's actually pulling it from DAI Pulse to PulseX to HEX to HEX, and then another route is doing DAI Pulse, and then Pulse to HEX, and then another route is DAI Pulse to PulseX, and then PulseX to HEX. So you can kind of see how these are like their own it's executing 3 different trade routes at the same time to get you the best price. And so what that ends, the net result of a $3,000 buy is not quite a 1% slippage. It's saying here it's 0.83% slippage. So you're getting a pretty fair price. You're losing about $30 on, it's saying here, about $30 on a $29.91 transaction. Now, if you're talking about doing bigger buy orders, like let's say 10 grand, the slippage is going to be a little higher because you're eating deeper into the liquidity when you go to make that buy using DAI. Let's say it says 1.84%, and it's using the same routes, but it's really heavy on the Pulse to HEX, HEX to HEX route, because HEX to HEX is the deepest pair, right? So you can see that here, that there's $116,000 of liquidity on both sides, so a total of $233,000 of liquidity between HEX and PHEX. So they're like, it's self-balancing in that way. And can I also add, while we're doing this demo, that if I invert this pair, switch to the line chart, let's see here, switch price to HEX. The HEX to PHEX ratio has been pretty surprising to me. Like, the market is definitely proving that it wants PHEX more, or at this point anyways, it's really saying that, PHEX is the dominant hex, and the ratio is continuing to rise over time. Here you can see that there's this big here V bottom out, and then it was actually, this is where I started to get convinced, is when it got protected here. This yellow dotted line is 2 HEX for 1 PHEX, and so that is now flipped to support, and it's actually broken through resistance here, and it's going higher. So like you can see here, kind of how it's flipped support on there, where like if I use a line chart, it doesn't show it as clearly, but here there was a wick. Here's your wicks. It broke out and then got supported and resumed off that level. Now I will say, these wicks are concerning to me, which means that people are starting to take the opposite trade. It means that people are flipping their PHEX back into HEX because these wicks are showing weakness as this thing's rising. So I expect this to come back in and get slammed down. But what's the worst case is that this gets slammed back down 2 to 1. But some people made some money by arbitraging these two levels inside of here. Okay, back to the demo. So okay, that's HEX PHEX. So I'm coming in here now. Okay, I'm bringing in $10,000 a DAI, and I want to buy HEX, for example. Well, it's giving me this 2.3% slippage. It means I'm going to lose, like, let's say, what is that, $200? Well, I don't want to lose $200. That was trash. So maybe I would just, when I'm DCAing in, maybe I start with like a thicker pair, which was like just having Pulse. Like if I just bring in $10,000 of Pulse, anyways, does that make the route better? I don't know. Let's find out. Because obviously with this routing is going to try to do that for you by going from DAI to Pulse. But let's just see. So what is 10,000 PLS? Probably like 200 million or something. Not quite. Yeah. 250 million.
Yeah, 250.
225. 225 is 9,900. Let's see, 229. Okay, I think I got close. So if you do 2 million or 229 million PLS, see, look at here. It's giving me 1.6% slippage versus 2 point whatever percent slippage by just having PLS instead of DAI when I go to execute that trade. Now, if I wanted that to be even better, this is more for like the hex gods. Like if you just have PHEX and EHEX, This might be more your trade, which is just what 100,000 hex, million hex. Let's see, 1,000,005 maybe. Okay, 1,000,000.2. Okay, let's rough estimate, $9,900. 1.22 million hex, P hex into E hex. Let's see what the slippage is, right? Like 1.5%, so a little bit even less on that in that case. So the guys that are going to make, like the guys that are going to do well here are the guys that get, you know, obviously dealing with this amount. This is a reasonable amount of slippage, and if you're ratio trading this chart, the opportunities are actually a little bit better, right? To earn back your slippage. So like if you saw this chart running up like this, and then you took profit up here from P hex into E hex, and then you saw this crash back down, you know, if you're willing to play that game with a portion of your bag, well then the slippage you ate up here for doing the swap, you made back on this descent, because this is a 20% move. 20 to 25% move. So like you're making back the 1%. So your net is like 24% gains as you get more purchasing power. As your P hex that flipped to E hex, it becomes worth more against P hex again, and then you can opt to do the opposite. So it's a little bit of like it's called ratio trade. Opportunities there for that. So that's the ratio trading on that particular pair. You know, outside of that, like if you're trying to bring in like big numbers, like millions of dollars, or even just 100 grand, like it's hard to do that without getting slippage right now, because there's just a lack of liquidity. Like if you wanted to bring in $80,000 right now into EHEX, like on even on PulseChain, like you're eating 9-10% slippage. So, and that's just like nasty in my mind. Like let's see, what's DAI for 100 grand? This is going to be probably a pretty nasty slippage too. 13.3%. So we're living in an illiquid environment. By the way, guys, this is where the most gains are made, because the slippage, people that are smart money that's willing to eat the slippage at the lows, they push the price up, but they're also setting the floor, because then everyone else has to buy like 13% higher, right? So it's like kind of like a catch 22. So think about all that as you're coming in. When you see these guys, some whales will gladly push the price up to absorb a ton of supply where it's cheap. Then they're injecting that DAI into the pools that reduces slippage for the next guy.
Is that so it's piteous that the game changer with it is just being able to find the best routes? Is there any other feature? Because I know didn't they launch a token as well? Is there anything to do with the platform with that?
Yeah, so not exactly sure what that does. I'm pretty sure that earns a percentage of the fees. But
Fees,
yeah, well, I guess we could pull up the document and see, where does the token come in? Tokenomics. PTS token is the utility token of Piteous, and it represents voting rights in the upcoming governance model. It has organic connection with the Piteous protocol and its revenue model. So there's some revenue aspect in there. Looks like it. So token. So here's this. These are key things that you want to know. It's got a fixed supply total. So it's got a capped supply. It's deflationary. So any kind of inflation that's built into it decreases over time, meaning it gets rarer and more expensive. And then I guess they're going to add other features into this, including gasless trades, swap fee reductions. So that's all sounds good to me. You know who else is doing something like this is Coast, 0x Coast, which is a stable coin. If you hold weight, it reduces your fees. I think you need like was it 100,000 weight? You'll know that.
I think so. Yeah, 100K.
So then if you
there's different tiers. Different tiers, but 100K is one of the tiers.
I think I think that's the top tier, but I'm not sure. But that's affordable now, guys. So like if you think that there's any chance PulseChain and like PulseChain's native stablecoins will be successful, then that it's worth maybe getting into that top tier for those things, so that in the future you could become a whale one day, and like you might be worth it for you to have those little bags early on and watch them appreciate in price, and then you're protected from fees somewhat a little bit, so on those bigger trades.
Yeah, I wonder if we'll have any more competition with Fiat on ramps, or is it going to be Coast kind of just grokking on that, innovating on that for a while, adding features? I know they're adding more, entities, different companies can start coming in soon. I think that's one of the next features. But boy, is that timely with all the, I don't know, there's bud going around, rumors and all that stuff. I haven't confirmed a lot of it, but it seems like, I don't know. Hope people don't get unfriendly towards the PulseChain bridge because that gatekeeping part.
Oh, that
We need to
actually
be
came
inside those
down.
gates.
So what he's referencing, guys, is the seller network was blacklisting wallets that interacted with the bridge, the PulseChain bridge. So you couldn't actually transmit money from a wallet that had touched PulseChain's bridge into
Whoops.
the seller network, but they actually reversed that.
Yeah.
So it was a false flag. And so if that's setting precedent for what's to come, it's more gates coming down than anything.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope. I mean, if we're the gates, we're the city, we're the ones that have all the codes. Then we don't have to rely on any other people. We don't have to be like, oh, please don't ban our token. Please don't ban that. Like, yeah, I'm done with that. I'm done with that. PulseChain.com. That's what we're here for.
You know, we have the most advanced user set. So like the Hexicans made Uniswap popular. They were the first ones to get an education and get rich while doing it on how to use DeFi and how to use on-chain swaps and use all these other tools. And so like we have our own chain now, and we have the best user base that's the most adept at these things and the most skilled at trading. We have the best user base and in the Hex Pulse ecosystem. And so it's kind of on us to teach people how to adopt this technology and use it properly, you know, because we had that education and we got paid to do it. I guess that's what I wanted to say about that. I think eventually all these gates are going to come down because we have the users and we have the funding. We have like the backing of a lot of very wealthy people that made a lot of money on this. That when the market cycle flips and the stuff starts getting bullish again, like I mean, this is bullish in here, guys. Like this little range, that was 40%. Like you're not getting 40% returns every day in the stock market on the indexes for sure. So I know it doesn't look like that because you're feeling this, right? But the reality is, if you're day trading or like you're actively managing a portfolio, then this is really good action off these lows. So the reason why I brought up that original seller right here is because that did break critical structure, and so like this is now in a downtrend. It's going to come back and test some of these other levels, but we did the same thing here where a whale came in and they pumped about, I think it was like $500,000 to $1 million on this one candle here. And then it retraced, but that created a short-term bottom, and then we had this rip up. So this one whale, this one account here, buys this here, pushes the price up 30% in like an hour, and then this move comes after that as a reaction to that move. Not just him, other players too. And then this whole sideways crap action, it found a floor, and now, you know, we can continue to play this game sideways for a very, very long time. It's called a crab market. So, you know, this could just be turned into one of these things, like, and it's just like really slow, really drags on. But then when that next impulse wave comes in, you know, you get one of these, you know, it leaves behind the last class of people that thought, you know, oh, this is it, you know, or whatever. Like now you're already up to 1.2 cent PHEX again. And so like the more times this happens without breakdowns, the better, right? That's when you're really starting to solidify that bottom.
What are people doing with their PLS and PLSX right now? Is it just sitting in the pools for ink, like farming? Wasn't there a site that shows all the TVL of all the PulseChain projects and stuff? I thought I came across that site before, and PHUX was like, they had like this massive lead over a lot of them, I believe, too. But I'm just curious, like what, you know, just talking about the bear market plays and stuff. We talk about mining HEX, but just people got a ton of they got their SAC coins, but not a lot to do with them right now, at least natively or third party, because a lot of the products, liquid loans, Power City hasn't launched yet, all that. Yeah, what do you do in a sideways market right now?
Of course, you can know if you're a bag, like if you're listening to this and you've just been sitting on your hands since Pulse launched and you're like a big wallet, you should be in the farms. You know, you should at least be making your money work for you, like while you're sleeping. So you could be, you know, you could be putting PulseX and Pulse against each other here, and it's a good time to do it from a TA perspective. So this is the PulseX chart. And, obviously, if you're just looking at this for face value, it looks like you're down big, especially when you're comparing it to like PLS, which held up a lot better. So let me actually compare, not denominate this chart in dollars, but let's denominate it in PLS. And it tells you a really interesting story. So PLSX ratio to PLS, here is retraced the whole move. So the beginning of the year, when the thing launched in May, it just ripped off these lows. It went up 90, what is that? 100%. So this is a huge gap though. So now it's all the way back down here. Now up here, the ratio was for every one PLS you had, you could swap it for 2 PLSX. Well, now we're all the way down here. So now every 1 PLS you have, you can get 4 PLSX, and we're at the base. And so what you want to look for here is like, if you were going to make money passively, now is the time to put in your PLSX and your PLS into these pools, because into this particular PLSX PLS pool, because as PLSX makes its resurgence and it makes a big green candle again, let's say like you wake up one morning and it's like up here, and it could happen. You're looking at converting some of that PLSX potentially into PLS at a better rate, and then you're making your PLS bag bigger on the back of PLSX's success while it's cheap. Not by swapping, but by providing liquidity. And so your PLSX that you put in down here on this pool will get converted into PLS automatically as this goes up. And at the same time, plus you're going to earn ink. So like on top of like the gain of PLS, if you really value your PLS bag, you're also going to get ink on top of it. And that's just free money that the token contract can print you for putting it in these farms, right? So that's one trade that I'm seeing and I'm eyeing up. It's a pretty basic one, and some of these other ones are a little more exotic, but there is opportunity out here, guys, to get 59, 60%, 50% APRs paid in ink, and an ink coin that's down really, really cheap, and it's like basically like an 80x back to all-time high. So like if you want to make free money and then potentially hold it, you could potentially realize a 6,900% return as ink tries to make its way back to all-time high over the bull market, and you're just getting that for free. So keep that in mind too. It's definitely a bigger trade there. You could at these levels, it's so far down, you could just market buy it too.
Ink is the one that like went up the most and went down the most, right? We had the most X's and then went down the most as well.
Yep, it did. Wasn't that crazy, man? Man, I'm telling you.
Feels like it's just yesterday. It was like you were making like ink was like $35, and the APR was just still nuts and hundreds of percent, and everything was just happy. Everything was good.
Yeah. Well, and if you get user adoption, that reality can come back again. I think the first level to look at here is to here. So like the first bull market wave, you could expect ink to do like a nice 400% move, and then it might get choppy for a while, but like that's from here to there. That's 5x your money, right? And I think
is it better?
Yeah.
I was going to ask, is it better that the whales are more likely to have a lot of the ink supply since they'll be the ones earning the most of it? Is that good for price, or what? Like, what are the ups and downsides of that?
So there's a lot of whales, quote in quotes, that have made a lot of money on ink, and there's the whales that dump, and there's the whales that don't dump. So like the whales that dump this, they're giving all of that supply to the whales that don't dump. And so what that does is it consolidates the ink supply into fewer and fewer hands, and that's good. That's really good. So there's 19,651 addresses holding ink. And if you go in here, the LP's got 32%. This LP's got 32%. So this means that the ink whales that are holding are farming more ink and consolidating it in the ink LPs, in the ink farms. So they're using their free money to hold it diamond handed and earn more free money and compounding it. And they're consolidating it all into fewer and fewer hands. And then like as far as like individual addresses that aren't farming, like this guy's got 3.4%. This guy's got 2.1%, 2%. And then after that, it gets pretty scarce. And I think that that's good. Really, I do. I think it's good that 20 this like the average in here, like the average number in the top 100 is probably like between $20,000 and $30,000 of ink, which is like for that to 4 or 5x in crypto is totally doable in terms of like supply that could suppress us. It's getting to levels now where like I'm comfortable saying that ink's getting primed and for a rip, right, at some point.
Yeah, it's one of those that we talked about before. I think just that maybe a health indicator, but also like when it goes down, it goes down. Like it's one of those things that, hey, the first thing that gets dumped is the dump token. A lot of times we saw that tremendous rundown, but also it's one of the coins that there's no OA. There's only people who are earning it because they put up the risk. Like Sloth talked about monetizing risk, that sort of thing, which makes it very interesting. Even outside the tokenomics, and it's within the ecosystem, and it's a native coin to the ecosystem. It's not a third party. So just the sentiment around it, I don't know. I'm kind of bullish on the sentiment of ink, if nothing else.
Yeah, nods to Sloth because he really changed the way I viewed ink too. He helped me. Well, he really made me realize the relationship of the transmutation of a PulseX buy and burn function getting converted into real value in the ink in terms of ink. Like, how did you word it before? Because that was really good. You said
Monetizing risk is what Sloth's quote.
Risk. That's right. So that when he said when you're monetizing risk, that because these guys that are creating ink out of thin air, they're taking risk in the LP pools and they're getting paid ink back to it. So it's a way to like hedge. So like by them making a market, they're getting paid for their risk taking and making that market. Just said another way, and I think that was really a good insight.
He's got a big brain. From time to time, he tends to show it. Did you have a Tetra chart? Did you check on that? P Tetra. I don't think we talked about it on the show yet, but it's one of the very interesting projects I think coming up.
Here it is on ETH. It looks like it found support on ETH side. All right, so let's look at it on PLS.
I think the P one is the only one that is officially supported now. I think it'd be P Tetra or Tetra P. Yeah, Tetra P.
It's pretty beat up right now, but it's trying to recover. So this red line, Sloth in the chat, correct me. What was the price that Tetra was at when it forked to PulseChain when they made this new contract? I think I had 30035 as the red line, but if that's wrong, let me know. But it shows that whoever is behind this token, they're trying to create a floor here, or at the launch, at whatever the launch price for this forked version of it. So you got from a technicals, you got a bottom, double bottom, retest on the wick, and the start of an uptrend. So you could take a trade here technically, and if it broke 0.0044, it would be you'd exit the trade, and if it but you'd take it expecting this to pump up 20 to 30% on the next move. So you're gonna get, that's what I'm seeing, and this might be a basement floor here, pop up to this red dotted line, which was the attempted support here. And if it can get that and then retest and hold, you might be able to keep this uptrend going, something like that. But yeah, this is looking good right here.
Yeah, that's last recall is around several zeros, 3.5 or 3.7.
Yeah, so somewhere in this general region, it was the fork level. So this is being protected, which is good to see. It means that there's a base behind it. And then you can also look into the wallets here and see that there's only 4,100 wallets holding it. And if you wanted to break that down further, you could like sort by maker, or like if you find a wallet that might be a problem wallet, or a whale wallet that's pumping it, Or you could break down by like, okay, any wallet that trades 5 million PLS or more. So you can see that this wallet here, these couple wallets here are bringing in size. Here's a Dolphin wallet that's bringing in 35 million PLS. September 20th at 6:45. So probably was the one that printed this green candle here. And then like this guy here that sold 10 million Tetra P for 100 million PLS. They have pretty thick liquidity on this pair. We're looking almost 2 billion PLS. So that 100 million PLS dump didn't really affect the chart too god awful bad. That was on the 20th. Because their liquidity is thick right here. So 100 million is 5% of the pool. So it's not going to murder it. But that is a lot of PLS when you factor how high Pulse price can go one day. And I think like we need to pay on. We need to respect the guys that are putting up this kinds of liquidity for people to trade, because they're taking a ton of risk, trying to support an asset and trying to getting them off the ground and going. And like in this case, like this guy just extracted 100 million PLS in the process, which is like $4,500 or so. And whether or not I don't know what the initial investment was, and everyone's free to do what they want with their keys. I don't want to come off like a selling Nazi, but just like these are the kinds of guys you want to watch. You click on this guy and you go in here and you see, well, how much more Tetra is he holding? 54 million, right? So the guy could do that 5 more times if he really wanted to be a detriment to the Tetra chart. So you may wait for that guy to come back in again on this pump. And I'm telling you guys this so you guys know how to play both sides, right? To be fully transparent, because that's what we do on RHMax. If we get this pump like we're supposed to get, that guy could easily come back in and dump you right back to here, right? And get rid of another 10 million Tetra, and take out another 100 million out of these pairs, 100 million Pulse, and then we get this kind of action. So it's just something to keep in mind, and that's only one wallet. So if you want to do a deep dive on the top 100 wallets on Tetra, you're going to get to know which guys are friendly and which guys are harmful, and you'll be able to trade and counter trade the moves as the whales swim around.
Sometimes you need the down payment for the Lambo, man. Sometimes you need it. You love your coins, but you love your cars. You get any more on TA, or should we go to Mount Gox, or what do you think to wrap up?
Mount Gox, yeah.
Okay. You want Gox me not? You want to be Goxed?
I'm good on getting Goxed. I'd rather
getting
not
Goxed. Rather not be Goxed. It's like Nickelodeon. About to get slimed. We're gonna slime you real good. Nickelodeon reference, nothing else. Yes.
Dude, freaking Legends of the Hidden Temple. You remember that show?
Yes. Yes,
Dude,
I do.
love that show.
Dude, shout out to Nickelodeon. So good. Let me put up the screen here. Do you know the redoing Goosebumps?
I did not know that, but I'm fully in support.
I'm supportive there. I was kind of excited. Oh, very, very cool. With Justin Long. I like Justin Long a lot too. So maybe good. All right. Ivan on Tech brought this up too. Oh, is this this was not the one. My bad. Well, let's start with this real quick. I thought that this was an interesting tweet. Apparently I put it in the notes. So most people aren't bullish enough on Bitcoin. Fed will start cutting rates next year. Government's right. They have an election in Renberg coming soon. Halving. ETF approved. Mainstream start to understand, speak about de-dollarization. Bitcoin is bad for environment. Scam talking point is fully busted. Yeah, what do you think about these points just at the macros before we get into the Goxed?
All right, let's break it down for them. So yes, I think that the Fed. Oh man, now I got a chart for you. But okay, let me just speak to it. Fed will start cutting next year, possibly. Doesn't mean that they have to. They can keep them flat and even do one more raise before they break something, and then yes, number one could happen because bond yields are going up still. Which let's not go into that right now. It's not good when bond yields are going to go up that high, because it makes the dollar more expensive, makes gas more expensive. But eventually things get too expensive and you break them out, the average consumer and the average laborer. So like if you break those guys, then your economy stops working. So that's when they cut, right? And that's when they print. And then I think this halving, and I want to hear your opinion too. I don't think the halving is going to keep having the same effect. I don't think this halving is as important as past halvings because the amount of supply that's coming off really is inconsequential compared to the amount of supply that's getting taken off exchanges. That's a bigger factor to me than the halving because they've been able to minimize the cost to produce Bitcoins due to like advances in energy production and advances in the ASIC hardware. So like the cost to produce is way lower, and I think like again that supply dynamic on exchanges is going to be a bigger deal.
I've never treated the halving as a technical like price should go up. I've never thought people would treat it that way, even though technically there is the tokenomics part. I've always looked at it as a sentiment wise and an event and a jumpstart, a reason, a thing. People could tell their board or their investors or otherwise to be like, hey, this is a thing, and it's kind of like that not shared delusion, but like shared ideal of, oh, this is a thing that could be good for price, or could be kick off some sort of investment. So I've never looked at it as the tokenomics matter that much, even though technically they do. I've always looked at it as what most people think is the sentiment around it and the reason to go do something. That's the way I've always looked at it.
And then in terms of the ETF, yeah, so there's a chart that shows you what happened when the gold ETF came out, and gold just went just up and to the right. It went bananas. And so if we can expect the same thing on an ETF approval for Bitcoin, it really opens the door. It's like basically like there's like a dam, and there's all this built up water in there, like our money. And as soon as those doors open up, all that money is going to flow into Bitcoin. It's just going to pump the price to the sky. And but it's the last call. I'm kind of sad because then that's it, man. There's no real other thing that can really make Bitcoin move besides just scarcity and like fear of not having any Bitcoin and people basically pushing it up higher because there's a shortage of it, which could happen in the future if the whole world gets on board and behind Bitcoin and like sees it as a requirement to hold some. Then you'd get that, but this ETF thing is probably the biggest thing that's going to come in the near term. Might be the last big thing to come. Yeah, so I definitely could see that.
The mainstream. Do you think anyone? I guess it's like, will enough people get it? Will enough people be like, this sucks. Is what's going on. It's not good right now. I need an alternative. Does that happen every cycle a little bit more, or do you think people just get tired of it, or there's just not enough critical mass on point number 4?
So I'm reading that one, and I don't think de-dollarization is. I just don't. I don't think it's a good narrative anymore. Like, I think a better one is debasement of currency. That's like the better, because the dollar will be around for 50 more years. It's more about. I mean, I guess it's the same thing seen a different way. I just see it as the debasement of fiat. So as those things become more and more worthless, the world is going to choose Bitcoin, right? Or crypto. I think that's kind of what we would agree on with that one.
Yeah, I thought about this today too, just in general of why people even get into crypto. And it's just like, there's just so much money to be made. It really does come down to that. We can come up with all these fancy reasons and analysis and economics and stuff. And it's like, if you're a capital allocator, you're an investment firm, if your job is to make a lot of money and you have a lot of money to play with, you got to be looking at crypto and like, hey, like here is where it's going to happen for the next decade or two. Like this, the stock, we've exhausted the stocks, we've exhausted other pieces and metals and stuff like that. Crypto is the thing that has the staying power and has the most gains to be made. So if you just strip everything else out, that's what I think. It's like they just see money and they're like, yep, it's go time, that sort of thing.
Yep, and I think it's out of that necessity, right? Because there's a certain necessity to, just in finance alone, where like you have to outpace inflation and you have to outpace the price increases of goods and services somehow. Otherwise, you're getting behind. Like every day, everybody wakes up to go to work, and just people's work looks a little different depending on where they're at in life and what they're up to. But everybody's playing the same game, which is how can I outpace inflation? Of the dollar, and so that partly leads into de-dollarization because it's going to be a choice by the people to go for the thing that's the safer, longer term, fixed supply, things like that. The tokenomics, right? The need for crypto as an investment vehicle more than anything.
And number 5, Bitcoin is bad for the environment. Yeah, are we going to keep hearing that, or is it going to go away? Is there going to be another product presented as an alternative? Like, oh, Ethereum's the good one now, or is it going to be like, all right, that's maybe not as important as it used to be?
I don't think it's going to stop the Bitcoin price from going up. So I guess it does. It's kind of like a broken talking point, because people can say it, but they're not the ones that can do anything to the chart, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like it's a pointless, no amount of that's going to stop the finance industry from getting in. They care about their bottom line. Like look at pollution in industry, for example. They're investing in companies that pollute every day, but that doesn't stop them.
That's what you get, sir. You get that for that comment. Okay, how dare you?
Yeah. Well, and again, so the counter to that is like, okay, it's true. Some people produce Bitcoin on really inefficient means, but the general 70% of it's being mined on like natural gas, which is a waste product, burned. Then yeah, Rick rolled, baby. Natural gas, biogas, hydropower. So there's all these other cheaper, more efficient ways to mine that it's becoming stupid to mine it with fossil fuels. And so it's really not that bad for the environment. It actually encourages and promotes converting waste electricity into monetizing it, right? It's monetizing waste. That's where Bitcoin's moving. So I just don't agree with that point at all on being a miner. And for 4 years, I know that space inside and out, and I know what's most profitable, and what's most profitable is something that's good for the environment, which is like they go toward that whole narrative.
I would be more apt to believe people about the whole environment thing if they didn't immediately get on an airplane right afterwards and fly around the world.
Crypto Sloth made a good comment here. I like this because again, the 21 million millionaires that can't get a BTC per person, and that it's not going to take 21 million millionaires to get the look at how much Grayscale has. Look how much Michael Saylor has. Look how much MicroStrategy has. Look how much the U.S. government has. Like many of the millions of Bitcoin is getting, look how much Satoshi has. So there's already 5 or so million that's lost or in the hands of diamonds. There's less than, I would say there's 6 to 7 million that are you could even convince someone to sell at this point. And there's not enough coming out over the next 100 years to replace it. So it really is a one-way train to $100,000 Bitcoin at some point.
Only 100K. One day.
That's what I'm safe to say. It might not even be this cycle because there's so much money to be made between 15K and 80 or 90K. So we'll see. Hey, and this is another bullish thing right here. Give us a runway.
Our friend told me this morning, woke up, watched a video as I normally do. Breaking news, baby dolls. Mt. Gox officially changed the deadline of Bitcoin payment to next year. That's a great Halloween date as well, so it looks like. So, yeah, this is something that I've talked about before. And I was like, I never really thought it mattered as much for a bearish case. I always thought, lawyers, the prices are down right now. If you're going to do it in a bear market, isn't there some contract or paperwork? You'd be like, okay, actually, we'll get it from you. We'll give you a good price or whatever. And then they're going to go get rich off of it. Like some kind of deal. I feel like there's going to be some kind of deals to be made around this. So pure speculation. I just thought there's no way this stuff gets dumped so well in a bear market. And then it got delayed for another year. And then I thought, wow, the calculations keep getting dumped. They keep getting dumped onto us right now. So that was my first reaction. But I know you probably have some commentary on it as well.
Yeah.
I mean, real quick, I'll just say Somi's at least his current opinion is it'll be auto dumped, but I'm gonna disagree. Although I don't know, he probably knows more than I do about this or has better speculation, but I can't see it happen. But I'll say that.
Yeah. So there for sure, dude. There's people that have been waiting for this stuff for 10 years. They're gonna sell.
Sell to Sell to who though? I mean, okay, so selling at this point, I agree. Next year, I imagine it'll be better market conditions than right now. The price will be higher and stuff like that. So yeah, I agree. Next year is more likely. But when it was coming out this year or the year before, or whatever, that's when I was like, I feel like there's gonna be some deals to be made where it gets locked up in some other way. People still get paid, but it gets locked up until the actual money to be made comes about. But next year, I could agree with that too.
It's interesting, right? Because there's a play to be made here as a market maker, or like a group of guys that like a BlackRock that could be behind a pump leading into that, and then to sell the top, and then all that supply comes on the market and brings it back down to like 25K, right? You know, so they just let them, you know, I'm just thinking about different ways that could play out. Yeah, some of it's for sure going to get sold. So there will be a liquidity grab there in terms of Bitcoin liquidity. You know, you could orchestrate a shortage of Bitcoin supply going into that, and then that could be the flood of new coin that gets distributed, and it's going to be like a mad frenzy to buy all that up in an environment where it's like already became a shortage and in the middle of a bull run. So it could be a huge sell off that like is potentially eaten up on like a 60-70% dip, and I mean we could see like a crazy dip, like, and it could be quick too. You know, because you just, if you give it a date like that, you can plan around it. So,
or what if it gets delayed again? What about for like if you're
might be that whole thing. I agree, dude. It's gonna get delayed again, right? So it keeps getting delayed. They're gonna delay this thing until those lawyers have made all of the Bitcoin and fees, and it's over. It's gone. There's something going on there, man. Like it's very suspect that it's just sitting there and nobody's doing anything about it.
It's almost like they're trying to invest it or sell the top. They're trying to sell the top.
Yeah,
I agree. Like I think everyone is aligned to make the most money off of it. And yeah, maybe the lawyer fees add up over time. Maybe they wait till a much better price, Bitcoin 100K or whatever. And like, oh, actually, let's release the thing. It's time for everyone to get their money now. Surprise. Interesting. But you don't think it may print some just one huge down 60% red candle.
I'm surprised that they haven't been taken to court over this.
Crazy.
Like, I'm surprised that the trustees haven't been taken to court over the constant delays. You know what I mean? Like a class action suit against them or something. I don't know. Is that even possible?
I think honestly, I just think they want to make more money. They're like, okay, well, all right, we can wait. I know they've been waiting 10 years. I get that part. But it's like, I bet some really smart people have showed them the paper of how much money you're going to make when you sell at 25K and how much money you're going to make when, you know, they think it's going to go 100K or whatever it is. And they're like, that number is bigger than that number. Shut your mouth. Hold on. Hodl. Delayed gratification. I don't know.
I mean, I see it. I don't think all of it's going to get sold, though. I think it's some of it's getting delivered as BTC and some of it's getting delivered as cash. There's like a settlement offer in there that you have to select one or the other. And, so it's not all just coming out in cash, and it's not all just coming out in BTC. So I don't. You have to read the paper and see what the ratio of that is right now currently. But so either way, you're gonna. That's what I was thinking too. Was like, so for those that might have thought that it was all coming out in cash or whatever, it's not that it's going to be one market sell, right, from the trustees, and that's just gonna that's gonna be handed out. It's getting distributed in tranches, so on a certain timeline, and it's not all coming out in cash, and it's not all coming out in Bitcoin, but inevitably that could create a long sideways downside trend.
Well, even if it was coming out in cash, I mean, I still feel like they'd find a way like to set up a bunch of OTC deals beforehand, so it doesn't affect whatever they wanted to market. Yeah.
Especially if a lot of that supply is consolidated in a few guys' hands, right? The 142,000 Bitcoin could be 500 users, or it could be 10,000 users. I don't know. I'm sure it was a small amount of users. If it was back in the early days of Bitcoin, like there couldn't have been 10,000 guys on that exchange. Could there have been? I mean, maybe.
I'm gonna say thousands, maybe. I wasn't trading on it, but I'm just trying to think of the Bitcoin numbers at the time. I'm not sure. A lot of Bitcoin though. But it was much cheaper back then.
So we are delayed another year. So that's, in my mind, that's bullish short term for Bitcoin.
I agree. What do you want to take us out on, man? What's any extremely important information we must share before we wrap it up? It's been a fantastic one as usual. Sorry, Chad, I have not talked to you at all, but I try. I'm plugged in with Access Live right now.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything else, dude. I was gonna bring up the Axis chart, but it's all good. You guys should go check that out. It was crazy what happened last week. This rewards token for my website, accessalive.com, had some whale action. They came in and made a splash and pushed the price up to 10 grand. And so it's been holding around like $2,000 a coin now for almost 12 days, which is surprising to me because well, why aren't the other holders dumping? It's crazy. So, but yeah, so check that out. Check out accessalive.com.
Newsletter.
Monday nights I do private video sessions on there. I had Kareem on a couple weeks ago. That was pretty cool. Me and him went deep on the HEX price action, 2.5 hours worth. So that was a long one. Other than that, man, I just appreciate having me on again, and we'll make sure to keep doing this.
Yeah, for sure. It's been a great session. Man, we covered quite a bit. I'm gonna have fun clipping this one because there's quite a few good ones. Shout out to the PulseTube. The PulseTube. Every once in a while, I'll add you all on Twitter and be like, "Hey, check out the stream." I might do it on this one too because this is it's a very informative, one I think people can actually take action on if they want. Again, we don't ask people to take action or nothing like that, but there are a lot of things we discussed which are been very important. I actually got to chew on a bit myself. I need some more time on it too to think through some of these things we talked about. So. Boy, I like September. Everybody's like, September sucks. I think September's okay. I'm okay with September. I think it's good. It's all good. What's up, Gifford Ware? What's up, Giff?
Hopefully we keep seeing upgrades to the T-shirt website.
Yes.
He made that T-shirt website. I thought he had some pretty good stuff on there. I really enjoyed that site. So
tsharesdata.com. I had it up the other night when I was looking at PulseChain stuff. Yes. Shout out to T-shares data.
We got listed on, so the Axis token did get listed this week on Pulse Coin List. Huge shout out to those guys and Piteous. So we're on there too now. So we're getting tracked with all the other coins, which is pretty cool. So make sure to go check them out too. A lot of cool stuff getting built. I noticed that a lot of the best stuff that got built out on PulseChain had no sacrifice phase and it was just launched and made amazing. Huge shout out to GoPulse. So PulseTube, there's a lot of good devs out there making cool stuff happen for us. So they're the real MVPs.
We have the products. Like that. Don't forget that. Anyone trying to, plenty of other chains and plenty of other products. We have the products, and we only just got started. 4 months in, it's nothing. Zoom out for real. Everyone, that's all we got for you today. I'm gonna jump on with DeFi Down Under, do a security AMA. If you like to check that out, feel free. I tweeted about it. Check the tweet if you're interested to see more. Access Alive, always good to see you, man. It's always a pleasure, and we will definitely do this again.
Pleasure. Thank you. See you guys.
Scivive and 5555. We are out.